Shalom Aleichem, beautiful and wonderful Chevra. Chazde Hashem, I think this is a bissel crazy. Maybe it's a lot crazy that we're having Chabura now. I am mamash still shikha, and Purim was absolutely wonderful. We finished cleaning the Beis HaMedrash. We have about an hour till Shacharis, till Nates, and it's Baruch Hashem, good. We'll see where we go. So I'd like to start our journey towards Pesach. And it may sound odd that mamash hours ago we were celebrating the world of Purim and now moving into Shushan Purim. The Nakuda is that when we are coming to understand our worlds of the Chagim, there's a deep healing that needs to take place. And part of that deep healing includes time. We can learn an idea. We can learn information. And maybe we will be gifted to experience a bissel inspiration. And we would want as well transformation. Information and inspiration can be shared quite quickly. We could sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and we could experience through the movement of the intellect and the stirring of the heart information and inspiration. Yet transformation at times takes time. And really to own what we are doing, it takes exploration, and we want to give ourselves that time. It's true to say Yeshuas Hashem ke'eref ein. This is a truth. And at times it's not Yeshuas Hashem ke'eref ein, so we do have to give ourselves that space. And yes, we have just finished Purim, and it's now time to move forward into the world of Pesach. Excuse me, Chevra. Chazda Hashem. Clearing the passages. Chazda Hashem. Okay. So, I'd like to start with the following thought, that when speaking about Yiddishkeit, it's very easy to fall into a communication that Yiddishkeit is about actions, it's about rules. Yiddishkeit is about our future, Olam Haba. It's about ticking off the do's and don'ts that are to be accomplished as communicated through and from the Shulchan Aruch. And it's true to say this is, yes, important, and this is for sure part of our journey. And what's important to understand, though, is that if one only gets lost in this, then there is a disconnect. We lose out on the deep, long-term, intimate relationship that is available to us. As we mentioned in our shiurim on Nefesh HaChaim, the Nefesh HaChaim teaches us that ultimately we want to create an alignment where there's a ladder coming from earth, coming from the land, up to the heavens. And this is a communication based on the Zayah of Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. And having this full integration, which we call the Tselem Elokim, when the different soul parts are unified, are integrated. As we read from Eov, from my flesh I will experience Hashem Yisbarach. And this is something really important to understand, because as we move on in our journey towards redemption, towards Geula, there's several layers of healing shifts that need to take place, that are going to take place. And I'd like to push us right now into a conversation where we're going to speak about things that one day are going to be so common. We're going to use the word trauma. Right now, people think, trauma is something really disastrous, but there's micro traumas as well as macro traumas. People aren't speaking about trauma in this way just yet, but in mamash 7, 10, 15 years, it will be common. And we will realize that the small and the large traumas really at the end of the day don't make such a difference. Because at the end of the day, healing is a multi-layered, multi-dimensional experience. And healing is a world that manifests in so many different ways, on so many different levels. And sometimes we get lost. We think, a person had a bad experience, and it's a big bad experience, and this is going to be something tremendous. However, as well, there are the micro traumas, the micro challenges that we've experienced in certain parts of our life, and the guf, the nefesh, codes it as something traumatic, even though it may appear to ourselves cerebrally and the other as something small. And as the Baal Shem Tov tells us, just as we should be careful in regards of a mitzvah kala, this is brought in the beginning of Savas Rivash, a small mitzvah and a big mitzvah, it's important for us to realize that in regards of healing, something small and something big, on a certain respect, it doesn't make a difference. Something small can impact us in a way that will hold us back from living a fantastic life. And really our wanting is that we can recognize and hopefully live a life where the partitions of unhealthy separations can melt away, so we can hold and connect on a deeper level. And when we speak about healing, what we want to try and understand to the best of our ability is that exile is healing. Exile, the whole notion of exile from a deeper perspective, it's becoming more whole and integrated. A couple of hours ago, when I was very drunk, I had a conversation with a therapist. So I was just coming out of, in the Beis Medrash, Leibedik. And it's interesting because when speaking about healing, why does a person go to therapeutic intervention? So maybe one can suggest on one level, there's the person and they want to do something. They want to speak to somebody, they want to go somewhere, they want to experience something. So there's the person who is A and the thing that they want to do, B. But then something comes up in the way and stops them. As we said, may the partitions of our unhealthy separation melt away. When that separation is there, then a person can't necessarily do what they want to do, whether stress, whether anxieties, micro, macro traumas, whatever it may be. When a person's in a situation and they have something in the way that stops them from living a better quality of life, when they are frozen in a particular area of their life, when a person can't perform and do what they would like to do because they are imprisoned by some sort of stress, as we said, shame, guilt, insecurity, whatever it may be, it will hold us back from living fully, living present. And really, when we are not fully healthy, which is fully integrated, which again, that's as well an odd term as I say it, because can we ever be fully healed and integrated? It's a journey. It is a journey. But what we want is to bring all the way from the soul down to the nefesh, from the higher souls, the nefesh, into the ruach, and the ruach into the neshama, and vice versa, the neshama to the nefesh, to the neshama to the ruach, and ruach to the nefesh. Up and down, down and up. We want there to be a full integration of the soul parts. This, by the way, is called Tzelem Elokim. Tzelem Elokim is when there is a full flow, a full integration. Ein Sof can come down into the neshama, neshama into the ruach, ruach into the nefesh, and vice versa. And you can see this clearly in the Avedas of Chabad, in Kunshus Aveda. And there is this Aveda that really needs to be taking place of healing. It's a beautiful Gra, Mishlei, 14th Perek, 10th Pasuk, that tells us that one day, this is a very interesting sentence, one day the Ivarim will come and speak to the Leiv and say, we are all one. That there will be this healing. It's very, very profound. There will be this healing. Just as we're speaking about Gra, the Gra Mishlei, there, Mamash, chapter 14, Pasuk 1 as well says about vulnerability. Arum is vulnerability. The Chachamim, the Tzadikim, there's this level of vulnerability. And Reb Moshe Shapira said a few weeks ago on this Nakuda that bitachon is vulnerability. Bitachon, batuach. We have the classical translation of bitachon as trusting. But there's as well This idea that we've shared a number of times, bitachon is feeling safe, batuach. And when you feel safe, you could be vulnerable. Our room is vulnerable. Yosef HaTzadik was vulnerable. Tzaddikim are vulnerable. They feel safe. In order to feel safe, there needs to be a full integration. There needs to be a presence. And it takes time to get there. As we said, for so many people, Yiddishkeit are the rules, Yiddishkeit are the do's, purpose-driven, action. However, there needs to be a health in place in order to do that. And we have our own language. We have a sophisticated approach given over to us by the Chachmei HaAveda. We need to experience what's called Menuchas HaNefesh. We need to experience Yishvadas. Famously, as we have shared, Rabbi Nachman L'Kutei Maharan in the second, in base, Yud, in the 10th teaching there, in Chelek base, teaches us that if a person doesn't have Yishuv Hadas, they're going to have a lesser connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So a person can do, and a person can perform, lots of mitzvahs. A person can be Isaac in Torah, Avodah Gimel Chasadim. And if they lack Yishuv Hadas and Menuchas HaNefesh, it is going to hinder feeling safe. It's going to hinder vulnerability. And at the end of the day, it's going to hurt us. We need, and I'm using this term, to heal. We need to heal. And that healing is a healing of groundedness, of centering, of integration. And we have an approach. And what I'd like to say is that we have been in exile a really long time. We've been in exiles for such a long time. We are hurting. We are hurting. We are B'nai Nevi'im, with the children of prophets. We should be Balei Ruach HaKodesh. It's open up for us. It's there for us. The Lubavitcher Rebbe already spoke about this from 94 onwards. And I'd like to push the conversation, to pivot our conversation to a conversation of healing, a conversation of groundedness, centering, a conversation of from my flesh I should see God. And this last part of our Avodah, Tikkun HaNefesh, to mataken the Nefesh, this is something so important, so important. The Nefesh, the lower self, is the Merkava, it's the vehicle to really receive Hashem's love and light, and we have to prepare ourselves. There's a beautiful Graham Mishlei, chapter 19, verse 2, and it says that Nefesh without Das, which we will go into a little bit, Nefesh without Das is not good, and Nefesh in Atbas is Tov. Nefesh, take the word Nefesh in Atbas is Tov. That when there is Das, which we will hopefully pivot into in this conversation, when there is Das working with Nefesh, when there is Das working with Neshama, there is an integration, a healing that can take place. And our conversation for now, we're going to go into, for the next number of weeks, is the conversation of Pesach. And what I'd like to do by introduction, after that introduction, tell you when you're shikha, you can talk. So this Hagdama that I just want to share goes as following. When we're speaking about Pesach, we're speaking about Nefesh with its relationship to Das and Nefesh. And this relationship is a relationship of healing. This is a relationship of Menuchas HaNefesh, Yishva Das, Harchavas HaDas. And when we're speaking about the world of Rosh Hashanah, it's the world of Das with Neshama. And that is a world of obedience, a world of discipline, a world of I will do, Nasa V'nishma. And we need both. We need both. Das is the negotiator, as we will go into. Das is the negotiator between the neshama and the nefesh, the higher self and the lower self. It's the reality that's in front of us. And the sophistication of Torah is Torah appreciates both worlds. It's true to say Torah is, Judaism is a relationship that involves action, it involves the doing, it involves discipline, it involves rules. This is true. This is the Rosh Hashanah. However, in order to really have the ability to get on board, the nefesh has to be on board. So Das is a negotiator, as we will go into, that hopefully negotiates in a real way the wisdom of the soul to the wisdom of the nefesh. And in order to do that, we need to experience menuchas ha-nefesh. Well, how do we do that? What does that exactly mean? We need to experience Yishuv Hadas, Harchavas Hadas. Well, what does that mean? Rabbi Nachman already tells us that if a person lacks Yishuv Hadas, that's going to impact their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's interesting because Rabbi Singer would say, the moment you can shift somebody into a place of Yishuv Hadas and Menuchas HaNefesh, the natural consequence usually is that you could start your conversations with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the natural consequence is usually a person will have an easier time relating to the divine experience and the cause of all causes. When we shift out of fight and flight into rest and digest, we've got the sympathetic and parasympathetic. When we could make that shift, our neurology changes, the chemicals in our body change, and it opens up to the soul elements integrating in a deeper, healthier way. We're more grounded. Ill health, from the psychological perspective, robs us of our joy, robs us of being in the moment. When we're in fight and flight, it hurts us. It's unhealthy. A Jew is not meant to be in fight and flight. No human being is meant to be in fight and flight for an extended period of time. So this is a call to healing. And through the call to healing, preparing us to connect to something far greater than ourselves, and to remember we need to do this together. Be'ezras Hashem. Again, may the different partitions of unhealthy separation in our lives melt away and give way to greater, deeper, long-term, intimate connection. When we speak about Pesach, the journey of Pesach, as we know, is a journey of external liberation to really a internal liberation and internal freedom. As we know, Pesach is a profound freedom through a reflection and celebration. This is what it should be. A reminder of the physical liberation from slavery that we experienced. And what happens is that what we want to understand is that the context of the historical event is as well an invitation and a metaphor to journey within, to experience a personal liberation, to hopefully hold and mitigate and melt away limiting beliefs that we have imposed upon ourselves. And hopefully we will explore this in Berech 3 or 4 sittings. But first, let's speak about what a real freedom should look like. So, on one hand, real freedom is more than just the absence of external constraints. It's as well an inner state of being. At its core, real freedom is the capacity to live authentically, to make choices from a place of strength through awareness, and to examine and re-examine our expectations and assumptions, to unshackle ourselves from the past, from fears, anxiety, stress, insecurities that are closing ourselves up, to have the ability to hold external pressures with grace. And just as Bnei Israel were in Mitzrayim and they longed for an eventual freedom and liberation from bondage, so too in our day and age we are really yearning and wanting a liberation from our internal chains, our doubts, and the conditions of the narrative that hold us back, the habitual patterns that limit us from filling our potential. It's fascinating to note that the human experience is already codified in Shemais. In the 6th Perek, 9th Pasuk, we're told that Bnei Israel in Mitzrayim were koitzer ruach, that there was a suffering that really stifled the spirit. There was a suffering that we couldn't breathe. We couldn't take a deep breath in. I couldn't stretch out my lungs. There was a shallow, unhealthy breath. And if you look at Rashi there, Rashi tells us that we couldn't breathe a deep breath. Not a deep breath from just like deep and breathly, but just a deep sigh of freedom, a deep breath of freedom. We see, for example, in Shemais 31:17, 6 days Hashem created the heavens, the Shamayim and the Aretz. On the 7th day, Hashem ceased to work. And it says, Yinafash. And Rashi tells us that when we rest from toil and we regain our life force, we can breathe. Breathing is this expression of liberation. I'm free. I feel free. I'm settled. I'm centered. It's okay to be present. I feel safe in the presence. It's a very, very deep Nakuda. Very, very deep Nakuda. And I would like to start by recognizing this, that we have an experience shared in Chumash that is meant to be an experience. However, through exile, not one or two, but a number of exiles, we're hurting. We're not living at our fullest capacity. We're hurting. We're not shining our brightest light. And that hurt, at least have conversations to shift to healing. At least talk about it. Healing, living our better selves and understanding how we can actually do that. And we can. Yiddishkeit has a sophisticated approach. In the world of therapy, typically we speak of two-dimensional, maybe a soul and a body. Therapy, psychology is the study of the spirit. It's the healing of the spirit. We don't even speak about the spirit anymore. But more than that, in Yiddishkeit, when people, speak about the soul and the body, it's just the soul and the body. We know there's 5 parts to the soul. We relate to 3 of them, but there's 5 parts of the soul: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, nichida. And the nakuda is each element. Each soul part has an experience. We have a sophisticated approach to understanding the human condition. And through guidance and through direction and definition, we can really upgrade our life experience. We can really experience menuchas hanefesh and yeshiva das al chavas hadas, and we can shift from chayla nefesh to being healthy and happy and centered and living fully together. And what we want to do is lead our conversations to this investigation. So then the Torah of Pesach, the Torah of healing, can really hold the Torah of rules and laws and discipline. And we are on fire, we're passionate, we're soldiers of light, soldiers of love, soldiers of compassion. And every moment we meet, we can hold it with grace, with strength, with dignity. The healthier I am, the more I can do that. That's what true freedom is. Every single situation that I am in, I can live with it fully, be present with it fully. I'd like to start by sharing a couple of ideas that are brought within the Sfarim. So we know there's this inyan of koitzer ruach. The Sfarim explain a word. It's found in a number of places. I'll bring a few makoros, and we will go into this word because this word is our starting place. It's the word of das. And we will redefine and re-examine its qualities like we did over the last several months and show it in the world of Pesach. Really, this Nakud of Das should be our starting place. So we know, just as a journey in Mitzrayim, we experienced Koitzer Ruach. We were in a state of trauma. We were in a state of fight and flight. And then there needed to be the shift and journeying to a place of centering. And then when we receive the Torah, as the Medrash tells us, we are in full health. Who received the Torah? A nation of Balei Das. Das, right now, we'll just use the word awareness and consciousness. Das, the negotiator between the neshama and the nefesh. Das is the part of us, the conscious part of us, which sits within Ruach, that lends the availability to integrate, to heal. And as we mentioned by the Gra mentions Nefesh Ba'at Bash is Tov, that through being a Bal Das, when we have Das, we can integrate. And Ra, as we have spoken about, the classical translation of Tov and Ra is good and evil. Ra is evil, Tov is good. There's another more sophisticated understanding to Ra and Tov. Ra is unintegrated, Tov is integrated. Das allows us to integrate. V'hafta lerecha kamocha. The root of re'echa is reish ayin, unintegrated. Not v'hafta chavarecha kamocha, because there's already a chibur, or ra'etzon, or tru'ah. This root is unintegrated. Ra'etzon takes the sheep that have wandered off and reintegrates them to the rest of the sheep. So this nakuda of das, Torah was given to Balei Das. And as we know, we have 2,000 years of Tov Vavo, 2,000 years of Torah, and 2,000 years of Yemais Mashiach. The world of Torah is there to integrate the Tov Vavo and the world of Mashiach. Yemais Mashiach. Das integrates, Torah integrates. And this Nakuda of Das appears several times in conjunction to Geula. So, for example, Preitz Chaim, Chag HaMatzos Aleph, the Heilige Arizal writes that our Das was in exile. And this is as well echoed by Regal Yishar of the Bnei Sascha Das. If we refer, for example, to Toldos Yankov Yitzchak in Parashas Vayishlach, near the end of the parasha, we're told in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, through a lack of Das, we cannot connect to Yichud Hashem. When we don't have Das, we cannot experience Yichud Hashem. And it is through Das in the times coming up to Moshiach, where we are actually now. This Nakuda, this level, this Darga, this experience, this state of Das is what's needed in order to start our reintegration process. And one can come to glean that the Rabbi Nachman we quoted before with a lack of Yeshiva Das is a lack of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's quoting his El Tazeda, his Messiah. The Baal Shem Tov's grandson and Rabbi Nachman's uncle, Degel Machne Ephraim, Parashas Boy, tells us that Golus is a chisaron hadas. And as we lead up to Moshiach, there will be a revelation of Das. And this is very much connected to what the Pasuk says in Yeshaya, 11th parak, 9th Pasuk, the land will be full of Das. We will be living from this state of consciousness and integrating. We will be healthier, wholesome. Chernobyl in Maranaim Parashas Vayikra tells us that when we're speaking about Das, the lack of Das, it's considered as if we are in Mitzrayim. Metzer Yam, a narrowing. Kaitzer Ruach, Metzer Yam. Yam is Bechin of Chokhmah. In order to reach this level of Chokhmah, we need to have Das. There's a lot to speak about here. Another Maranaim in Bereshis, for example, and speaks about Katnas Hadas is, again, exile. Golus is Katnas Hadas. A lack of Das, a smallness of Das. There's in Vayera, I think it is Vayetze, Vayera, one of the Vavs, one of the Ver of Maranaim speaks about how Das is a sod of Vayera, I think it is. Shemot, I think it's Vayera, speaks there about how Das is a sod of Golus. There's another beautiful source, the Ohev Yisrael Parshas Bay. The Ikka of Golus is a lack of Das, and to have Geula there must be a revelation of Das. And it says even more beautifully actually that the lack of Das, we do not have proper communication, proper eitzah with the nefesh. Pelaplaim, again, healing. And the Ohev Yisrael says that, like the Baal Shem Tov, we can't have a proper hasaga of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a lack of yichud of the olamais. So this Das and the importance of this Das, again, we will give it its qualities next time, but just to have this conversation. Gemara Nadarim Mem Aleph, Amud Aleph. Again, these are sources that we've seen. When somebody has what we call das, when somebody is in this state of das, they have everything. And the Gemara there says, no man can be considered truly poor unless they lack das. Or for example, in Vayikra Rabbah, Aleph, Ois, Vav, if a person has das, what does a person lack? And if a person does not have das, what does a person have? This Nakuda of Torah, by the way, is related to das. The Gemara in Kedushin, Mem Aleph Amud Beis, tells us that when a person learns Torah in a proper manner, they achieve this state, they shift into this state of das. And we're told, Ein Tov Eila Torah. Tov is considered Torah. It's interesting, we quoted this gra, didn't we? That nefesh in atbash is das. That when das is connected to nefesh, this is considered tov. Nefesh in atbash, nefesh in atbash is tov. So ein tov eila Torah. The das is considered tov. Tov is connected to nefesh, it's tov, and Torah in ein tov eila Torah. Okay, I'm looking at the time here. I have to get going in a moment. Let's just start winding down from where we are right now. It's important to note that everything we're speaking about in regards to healing, beautiful chevra, we have to do it together. Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu first came to, or when Moshe Rabbeinu was going to go to Paro, first he came to Am Yisrael, to Machazak Am Yisrael. The Leshem brings this and others, that first Moshe Rabbeinu came to the nation prior to Paro. Why? Because the nation had to buy in. And the moment the nation buys in, the moment we could start healing, and healing together changes everything. We need to work together. The Abrahamic vision, caring, sharing, supporting and encouraging together. Chevra, zusammen, together. It's interesting to note the famous Torah from the Sasva Rebbe. We spoke about this with Yisrael last week, I think it was, that the Sasva Rebbe would say, how do you know with Moshe Rabbeinu, panim el panim, he had panim el panim relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it wasn't enough. Aaron HaKohen went with Moshe. Aaron, Moshe's brother, they went together. It wasn't enough, just our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We need our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we need each other to empower us, to care, share, support, and encourage, to heal together. When we make those shifts, everything changes. But also, when we heal, the natural consequences, there's greater achdus. When we camped round the mountain, again, we were healed and there was achdus. Natural consequence. When we become more conscious and we can hold different parts within us, which is an integral part of healing. When we can speak and share with the different parts within us, the children within us, the adults within us, when we can have that healthy communication within us, and we can melt away the hurt, the shame, the guilt, which is part of the Chet Adam process. Shame came into the world, toxic shame came into the world after Adam and Chava ate from the tree. That's what we're healing from. That's part of this big tikkun here. Together, healing, incredible. Rav Tzvi the Cook writes that a sign of our healing, a sign of shifting from Kaitza Ruach to a place of Das, to a place of Meichin the Gadlus, is that we took the sheep. We weren't afraid, we were empowered. And it's very important. Empowerment is the recognition of our true freedom. Empowerment gifts us the ability to be present and take responsibility for that which is going on within our life. And when we can become more empowered, we can grow. It encourages us to question our expectations and assumptions. It gives us the ability to grow and hold all the different parts within us, and to start that healing and communication. As well, we become more resilient. A truer freedom done in the way that we are sharing through health and integration. We foster greater resilience, allowing us to navigate life's challenges without being overwhelmed by them. By the way, this is part of the trauma response. A trauma response, a person who's gone through a trauma becomes frozen. Age 4, 10, 15, 20, whenever it is. They can't hold. Healing is I can hold that which is going on, becoming more of a baldas, doing tikkun midos together with others in a healthy way, including obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Deveikus Emunah Bitachon. When I feel bitachon, I feel, as we said, safe. I feel safe, I can be vulnerable, I can hold that which is going on. We have the famous saying, people say, to grow you have to move out of your comfort zone. Well, did you ever think about being in your comfort zone in order to move out of your comfort zone? You have to be in your comfort zone to move out of your comfort zone. Bitachon is being in your comfort zone. Bitachon, I feel safe. Once I feel safe and I can be authentic in the present moment, then I can start to shift out of my comfort zone and grow. And when I'm creating this alignment, when I'm creating this integration, wow, Chevra, you and I, every single one of us, we have our light to shine out in the world. We have this light to shine out in the world. The world's waiting for us. So Chevra, beautiful Chevra, when we're speaking about Pesach, in celebrating Pesach, we remind ourselves that the freedom is both a historical reality and an ongoing personal quest for liberation together with others. And by embracing this dual understanding, we honor our ancestors' struggles while acknowledging and continuing our growth, our continuous growth for inner freedom. And we've spoken about the Arizal. The Arizal writes that we have multi-generational healing. There's multi-generational trauma. And it's not personal. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. We are holding thousands of generations within our bodies. We really are Chevra. And we are to take responsibility for multi-generational healing. We can't do it alone. We need to do it as a nation together, and we need to be led into these conversations. That we experience the Pesach of the communication of Das with Nefesh, the healing, the integration, the trauma releasing, being present and holding and growing. And then when we get to Rosh Hashanah, we can then move into and shift into the conversation of Das with Neshama. Having the ability to live a life of discipline, or live a life of action, etc., etc. And we follow this pattern, this rhythm, this cadence. Okay, what we'll do over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to go, be you Chevra, going to break up into pairs, and just speak about what we've spoken about today. The Nakuda of healing, the Nakuda of alignment, Naran, from my flesh I will see Hashem, that there's this dual reality. There's a Yiddishkeit of action, of rules. There's a Yiddishkeit of purpose, of Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. And there's the Kli of the Guf, the Kli of the different soul parts working together. Menuchas HaNefesh and Yishuv Das, mindfulness, healing. And to recognize our journey of Pesach is both a historical remembrance, and it's this personal transformation, information, inspiration, and transformation. And to recognize we've got this internal understanding of what freedom is, and we see very clearly when reading the words Kaitzer Ruach, that's not the way to function, Chevra. We together want to understand how to shift into a approach to healing, to take us to a liberation in a healthy, wonderful, wondrous, amazing way. And we spoke about the Nakuda of Das and the importance of Das, which shows up all the way through the story of Mitzrayim and the story of the liberation process. And Be'ezras Hashem, to recognize this dual nature, that we cannot just live with, just to end with this, there's conscious competency and unconscious competency. Unconscious competency is when a person can achieve something but they don't know how they achieved it. Conscious competency is when we have an algorithm, when we have a way of experiencing something but then sharing it. Having the ability to communicate what I want for us is conscious competency. That we can speak out these ideas. the recognition of Menuchas HaNefesh, Yishuv Das, is a fundamental to connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah, to be in this world with the Veikus Emunah and Bitachon, in a deep, deep, real way, a healed, real way. And through that, having the ability to hold everything that comes our way. As we said, may we, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, have the availability to really shift into melting away all the unhealthy partitions and have the ability to hold and connect, to have deep, long-term, intimate relationships. All around with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with ourselves, with others, and together live l'chaim, goodness for all of us. May each and every one of us shine our light brightly. Kol Tov and Kol Yeshuas. As I said, I'm going to go now and get ready for Shacharis. Please share, journal, and whatever you can do, wherever you are right now. And we'll carry on. Be'ezras Hashem, I think in a few days' time. Nachon, we'll meet 3 times this week. Okay, l'chaim.